Let's play.
Sometimes a movie seems familiar, but you just can't place it. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 movies you didn't know were sequels.
Who are you? How did you get through out there? Look, I want some answers.
For this list, we've chosen movies that hid their sequel-ness, whether intentionally or not, either due to a change in scenery, actors, style, title, or other elements.
You make me sick.
I feel like we're all really getting to know each other now.
We'll be excluding The Silence of the Lambs since it's not actually a sequel to Manhunter, but a standalone film that happens to be the second movie to feature Hannibal Lecter.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Similarly, we've left out spin-offs, even if they've also been called sequels, such as This Is 40 and Get Him to the Greek, as well as franchise films from series like James Bond and the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I know that I'm not smarter than you. Then how did you catch me?
Number 10. My Summer Story, also known as It Runs in the Family, sequel to A Christmas Story.
Ralph! Downstairs in 2 minutes!
Since it came out over a decade after A Christmas Story, MGM initially decided to call this sequel It Runs in the Family in order to distance it from the holiday classic.
How about you, Ralphie?
Who? Me?
Yeah, Ralphie!
However, after becoming a huge financial disaster, MGM retitled the home video release My Summer Story. Following the further adventures of young Ralphie Parker, this sequel had all the main characters recast, apart from Gene Shepard as the narrator and Teddy Moore as Ralphie's teacher.
Ralph, I'd like to see you for a few minutes during lunch. I want to discuss your book report.
Although A Christmas Story 2 was released in 2012, further erasing My Summer Story from the public's memory, neither film was able to resonate with critics or audiences like the original.
It was do or die. Do or die. Dog eat dog. May the best man win. Teach me, life, teach me.
Number 9. The Chronicles of Riddick, sequel to Pitch Black.
I'm just passing through.
A sleeper hit in 2000, Pitch Black had the early makings of a cult classic. This action-packed sci-fi horror hybrid put Vin Diesel on the map, leading to his roles in blockbusters like The Fast and the Furious and XXX. Given Diesel's newfound superstar status, it made sense to make Riddick the title character of this Pitch Black sequel.
There's gonna be one speed. Mine.
It didn't hurt that Riddick was the most interesting character in the movie, not to mention the biggest badass. With its larger budget and kick-ass leading man, this sci-fi adventure flick whetted our appetites for more interplanetary mercenary chases. Even in complete darkness, Riddick steals the spotlight.
It's an animal thing.
Number 8. Patriot Games, sequel to The Hunt for Red October.
Just pissed me off. I couldn't just stand there and watch him shoot those people right in front of me.
Before Tom Clancy was known for video games, his popularity soared thanks to his series of novels featuring Jack Ryan. This CIA analyst has appeared in 5 thrilling action flicks so far. Since 4 different actors have portrayed him, you probably never realized these movies were at all related.
How are you gonna get away, huh? Wanna go for the other knee? Come on!
Jack Ryan was first portrayed by Alec Baldwin in The Hunt for Red October, but the character wasn't heavily prominent in the marketing for that film. Thus, nobody seemed to notice when Harrison Ford was recast as Ryan in the 1992 sequel Patriot Games, which was so critically and commercially successful that a follow-up with Ford came out 2 years later.
If I go down, you're going with me.
But with that being Ford's last time in the role, it's safe to say Ryan is a man of many faces.
I am telling you, I want back in.
Number 7. The Jewel of the Nile, sequel to Romancing the Stone.
Jack is dead.
Don't be ridiculous. Jack would never die without telling me.
Before Robert Zemeckis thrilled the world with his Back to the Future series, he proved his worth with the adventure comedy Romancing the Stone.
My minimum price for taking a stranded woman to a telephone is $400.
Will you take 375 in traveler's checks?
American Express?
Of course.
Got a deal.
The story of a romance novelist who gets involved with kidnapping plots, treasure hunts, and dashing smugglers became a huge, award-winning success. Rushed sequels were not that common in the 80s, but thrilling adventure films had become a dime a dozen thanks to a little movie called Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I hate snakes, Chuck! I hate them!
Although the main cast of Romancing the Stone all returned to the big screen a little over a year later, and The Jewel of the Nile did find some box office success, critics were less than pleased with the sequel's plot holes. And talk of a follow-up to that eventually fell through.
Hey, I could have got him killed!
Number 6. The Two Jakes, sequel to Chinatown.
Besides, I wouldn't extort a nickel from my worst enemy. That's where I draw the line.
Believe it or not, there is actually a sequel to Roman Polanski's Chinatown, and it's called The Two Jakes. In addition to directing, Jack Nicholson reprises his role as an older Detective Jake Gittes.
You can't trust a guy who's never lost anything.
Although the film actually received fairly decent reviews, mainstream audiences were confused by the title, which seemingly had no connection to its predecessor. On top of that, many film buffs felt that a follow-up to Chinatown simply didn't need to exist.
You've got a nasty reputation, Mr. Gibbs. I like that.
As a result, The Two Jakes tanked at the box office, and a third film titled Gittes vs. Gittes never saw the light of day. That's not a joke.
What I do for a living may not be very reputable, but I am.
Number 5. The Devil's Rejects, sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
Rob Zombie's directorial debut, House of a Thousand Corpses, developed an instant cult following among horror fans. So, a follow-up was expected.
Get on your feet. Come on, let's go. Please, mister, this is insane.
Zombie clearly loves horror, and his first project was a love letter to ghoulish and gory 70s grindhouse classics, such as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Devil's Rejects follows the first film's family of murderous maniacs, now on the run for their heinous deeds. The style considerably shifts, as we now find ourselves in a kind of The Hills Have Eyes road trip nightmare, with a Bonnie and Clyde criminals on the run scenario.
Well, I'm Miss Bonnie Parker, and this here's Mr. Clyde Barrow. We rob banks.
Although both films are now beloved cult classics, not everyone realized they were witnessing the same psycho family on screen, especially since Zombie likes working with the same actors for his various projects.
Please, stop. Stop? Bitch, I have just started.
Number 4. The Road Warrior, also known as Mad Max 2, sequel to Mad Max.
It's been a pleasure doing business with you, but I'm leaving.
Though it's now considered one of the greatest action movies of all time, audiences weren't to blame for not knowing The Road Warrior was a sequel to Mad Max.
I'm scared, Thief. You know why? That red circus out there. I'm beginning to enjoy it.
While the first film was making its rounds at the time and slowly gaining cult status, the apocalyptic road revenge movie had not fully reached American shores until 1981, at which point Mel Gibson was still an unknown Australian actor.
How do we know that one's not a dud?
Find out.
Cool.
Originally titled Mad Max 2, the sequel was retitled The Road Warrior for North American release. Fortunately, a prologue that featured footage from the first movie was included at the beginning of the film, so poor moviegoers unfamiliar with Max Rokitansky wouldn't be confused.
On the roads, it was a white-line nightmare. Only those mobile enough to scavenge, brutal enough to pillage, would survive.
Number 3. The Color of Money, sequel to The Hustler.
Money won is twice as sweet as money earned.
Although The Hustler was a classic of 60s cinema, young moviegoers in the 80s likely flocked to see The Color of Money because it starred Tom Cruise.
No problem. Did I say I have a problem? There's no problem.
Glad to hear it.
In the film, Cruise plays a young pool hustler and the protege of an aging Paul Newman. Newman reprises his role as Fast Eddie, who's now older and looking for an apprentice to take under his wing.
You gotta have two things to win. You gotta have brains and you gotta have balls. You got too much of one and not enough of the other.
The 1986 drama was a big success, finally earning Newman his first Academy Award. Unless you were over the age of 25 at the time, though, chances are you had no clue these two films were connected. or that the first one even existed, with the contrast being made even stronger due to the fact that the first was in black and white and the second was in color.
Well, the balls roll funny for everybody. I told you that. I mean, you shot a great game.
Number 2, Desperado, sequel to El Mariachi.
Carolina, did I thank you?
In the case of Robert Rodriguez and his big screen sophomore effort, Desperado, audiences were unaware the surprise hit was a sequel, due in part to the change in language.
It's easier to pull the trigger and play guitar. Easier to destroy than to create.
Both films follow the nameless mariachi and his run-ins with drug gangs. But El Mariachi was entirely filmed in Mexico and in Spanish by the American-born Rodriguez with a barely there budget. But even so, it became an indie film legend.
No love, no luck, no ride.
The sequel, however, had a major studio budget and Antonio Banderas' rising star power. Therefore, the original title of El Pistolero was changed at the studio's request.
Bless me, Father, for I have just killed quite a few men.
No shit. From what I hear, you cleaned out the entire Tarasco bar.
Even the final installment in Rodriguez's Mexico trilogy, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, was released with many audience members unaware of its connection to the previous films.
Who are you guys? Sons of Mexico, sir.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here is an honorable mention.
Are they really angels? Or are they just in our mind? It all comes out in the wash. In time.
Number 1, Army of Darkness, sequel to Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn.
Hail to the king, baby.
Horror fans were anxiously awaiting the return of Ash in one of the most anticipated sequels of the 90s, especially with the bizarro ending of Evil Dead 2. Since Ash would be flung to the 14th century to fight the undead, a bigger budget was needed. Therefore, the third film had major studio backing, thanks to the underground success of the Evil Dead films.
I got a bone to pick with you. Come on!
Sam Raimi's initial title of The Medieval Dead was refused, as was Evil Dead 3: Army of Darkness. At the behest of Universal Pictures, the film was released simply as Army of Darkness, in order to allow the film to stand on its own, making fanboys scratch their heads, though its positive critical reception and cult status proved that they still hailed to the king, baby.
Buckle up, bonehead, because you're going for a ride.
Do you agree with our list?
That's the point, isn't it? You claim responsibility for one thing, deny it for another. Nobody believes you anymore.
Which movies did you not know were sequels?
I got nothing left to teach you, kid. That was the last lesson in here.
For more entertaining top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
I haven't shot my eye out. In fact, exactly the opposite. Oh!